Well, hello, friends. So we meet again. I had a request from a member of our community for a meditation to deal with localized acute pain. And so I put together this meditation for that, but I would also expand that and say that if you're someone who deals with chronic pain, I'm going to take a technique it's not that I know it incredibly well and I have studied it for forever, but in The Brain's Way of Healing by Norman Doidge, which if you haven't read, it's really quite incredible. There is a neuroscientist who ended up with debilitating chronic pain, so much so he was losing his career, not his livelihood, but his ability to move in life and just everything else. And so he came up with this technique of knowing what his brain map looked like when it wasn't in pain, and knowing what his brain map looked like when it was in pain, and visualizing around that, right? And then there is a yogic meditation where when you feel the pain in one area, you try to bring it to an area of your body that doesn't feel any pain at all. So both of those are basically rewiring the brain, right? If you have chronic or acute pain, then your brain is going there and it's just this flash and that's all you have, right? That brain map, and it just, those neurons keep firing to that spot or those spots. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that and bring it somewhere else. And we're trying to retrain and rewire that away from the acute, the localized, or chronic pain to another area. So that's the technique we'll use. And I tell you that, so that even if you don't have the device next to you or whatever else it is, when you're working with it and you're not even in a meditation, hopefully maybe you realize, I went to that pain again, I'm going to go to this other place. So let's see if we can't get some imprints and impressions in the body and some places that you can find that don't have that pain. So I would say, instead of sitting up nice and tall, I'm still going to teach it from me sitting up, but you might choose to lay down. But of course, if that pain is in the back body and it's not comfortable to lay down, sit up. When you're dealing with pain, where is the most comfortable place that you can be for these next few minutes? And let's start with just a very brief body scan, just to drop into our body. And part of the reason I teach this at the beginning of almost every single class is because it's rewiring the brain. And so as we go through this scan and we do it over and over and over again, hopefully maybe we start to drop into that relaxation response in an effective and quick way. So bringing your awareness to your forehead and your eyebrows and the muscles around the eyes. Softening the tongue and the jaw, the neck and the throat. Softening the shoulders away from the ears and the arms, through the hands and the fingers. Softening your chest and your upper back and letting that come down through the middle ribs to the belly and the low back. To the hips, softening those beautiful hips. Through your legs, all the way down until you end up down in your feet and your toes. Bring the awareness for just a few moments into the breath and let that soft belly breath start to come into play if it's not already. Should not feel effortful or pushed. It's an allowing. And so as you scanned through the body, it's very likely that you started to come into contact with those points of pain. But if you didn't, you can come to the places where they currently are and notice it for a moment, right? But then now go ahead, and when you scanned through the body, you may or may not have noticed there were a lot of areas that didn't have any pain. So as you scan through one more time, where is the area in your body right now that has the least amount of pain, the most spaciousness, and is the most relaxed? And say that's your right pinky. Doesn't have to be, right? But I'm just using an example. So if that's your right pinky, can you bring your full awareness to that space, that place in the body that doesn't have any pain? And, as with all of our meditations, we try to bring ourselves to that place as long as we can. And the mind might get taken back to that place of pain or to thought or anxieties or worries, various things. And just keep coming back to that place. Now, if that place changes, the pinky, right, and it starts to get painful, you're going to scan through the body again for another place that doesn't have any pain. Otherwise, for this meditation, you might just come back to that one spot. And again, think of a new pathway being carved so that we start to move away from that pathway that's gotten really beaten down, walked upon, so to speak, if we're using that analogy. And we start to try to carve, I'll call it, a new pathway. That said, if it feels like it's more effective for you to find another spot in your body that doesn't have any pain in it right now at all, send your mind, your awareness to that part of the body. So you can play with that a little bit and find out. Again, I don't have the magic recipe for each individual person. We all have our own things going on. I have suggestions, and if I work with you privately, right, then you tell me and get feedback, and we just keep honing that in. So this is my first attempt to my friend who requested. And let's talk, and anyone else, comment, and I'll make another. And let's go to one more place here in this meditation, and that is, so you might not know exactly what your brain looks like. You're not a neuroscientist who has gotten a bunch of scans and has pictures and photographs of them. But I'd still like you to visualize, right, that there are certain areas of the brain, especially in the amygdala, which is kind of in the back of, just above the brainstem, right, the brainstem and just in a little bit, that area of the body tends to light up quite a bit when there is pain in the body. And there are some other centers too. But imagine, even if it's not an exact replica, that you have these parts of your brain that are lighting up, like that red infrared light that would be in a brain scan. And then I want you to visualize that that dissipates, right? So imagine those areas, whatever areas there were of your brain. I want you to imagine that that red light, that heat indicator, right, starts to dissipate and turn colors, moving towards blue. So I'll repeat that again in case that doesn't make sense. And of course, if it doesn't make sense or work for you, don't do it. It's okay. But we're imagining when we have the pain come in, that certain areas of our brain, whatever we choose at this point in time, but I would put some of that in the amygdala by the brainstem and just above, right? What we call the reptilian part of the brain. Imagine that as the pain comes in, starts to turn to that kind of, bright red we would see on an infrared scan. And then I want you to imagine that pain dissipates, that activity in that part of the brain dissipates, that color changes from red and goes through whatever colors of the rainbow you'd like to go through, or whatever color you feel like you get to, but try to see if you can't get that to the color blue. We're using the color blue today, that cool area, that non-active part. And so you can do this, of course, even if you're not sitting in a meditation. And that's part of the way this technique works, is that every time you feel that pain, right, you know that that certain red color is coming up. And again, I think it's pretty effective, even if you don't have a brain map of your brain in pain, right, to have it be that red and to visualize that that turns back to blue. Let's go ahead and bring our hands back to our heart. Inhale. Exhale, bow the head in. Taking just a moment here of gratitude, even when we're in pain, right? We still have these bodies that are getting us around and making us mobile, allowing us to live and to do things and have children and all the various things potentially, right? So just being grateful for these bodies. Namaste. So, to any of my friends who have pain, especially my friend who requested this, this is just a first short version of it. Let me know if any of the techniques are effective. I'm going to keep doing a little research on my end, and I'll try to put another one up. If something is effective in it, let me know, and we can try to make a longer one. But let's just pause there for a little bit and kind of see how that feels. Okay?